Hi, this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the September forecast. I decided to change my mind about what I was going to do. This always happens. Gemini, change of mind. I just thought the Decan Astral report thing was just a little bit confusing for people, and I just think everybody just prefers month by month. It's kind of easier, it's just compact, and it's because the decans don't fit neatly into 1 month, and the signs change in the middle of the month, and it's just all a bit confusing. So what I've done is I've had to go back and plaster or paste the Decan 2 of Virgo into this one, and we'll just carry on and do Decan 3 and go into Libra Decan 1 when it changes signs. I thought it was just easier, and also it just got really long with doing all the political stuff, and I think the political stuff should just be a separate thing because people can find it easier. If it's buried inside a report that dates very quickly, then it just gets lost, so it seems logical to do that. So now, I think what will happen then, I will drop in Virgo Decan, from basically the 1st of September in here. And then after that, we'll continue with from September the 13th. So we're in Virgo Decan 2 season. So the next 10 days we will have a look at. So here's the chart for September the 3rd, and we'll just kind of go through it. And we've got this T-square going on between the Virgo planets and Jupiter and Neptune. So it's going to be particularly victim-saviour narrative because of the sun being on Zosma. Now, Zosma is a star that is found... Yes, Zosma is at 11 degrees of Virgo, and this star, it's on the back of the lion. It's not one of the most fortunate ones, although it is next to one that is Al-Shul. I can't say that. Al-Shuhail, in the sails of the ship, which is prosperity in trade and voyages, strength of mind and spirit. But instead, Zosma, according to Robson, says it causes benefit by disgrace, selfishness, egotism, immorality, meanness, melancholy, unhappiness of mind, and fear of poison. It gives an unreasonable, shameless, and easy egoistical nature. So, I mean, I sort of see it as an alert mind, but also a tendency to melancholia. And other commentators have associated it with drug addiction as well. So Bernadette Brady actually brings out the more sort of victim side of it, saying it's present in the charts of victims of people who are abused by the system, potentially involve suffering, perhaps through the person's naivete, allowing them to be led into victimizing situations. Star of glory or fame, but rather of the invisible work dealing with the victim. So yeah, it's people in the background, social workers, carers. One of my theories as well is that maybe Zosma is chosen as a path by people who were previously rich or famous and powerful but abused their position, and so they sort of try and pay it back by choosing this path. And also someone who used to be a drug pusher, maybe in the same life, an ex-drug pusher who later works as a drug counsellor, addiction counsellor. So there's also the ability to prophesy as well. So it is a kind of one of those, mixtures of being quite virtuous because it is still Virgo. It is a bit of an outsider. It is a bit of a Persephone energy as well. So we're getting that straight away when we launch into Virgo Decan 2. Now, there is a positive side to Virgo Decan 2 because look at the tarot card that's associated is really positive. It's the 9 of Pentacles. So I think it really helps counteract any of the dark edges found in the Decan. You could say it's like a kind of positive Pluto, really. So it can be wealth as well. So here's the lady in the garden looking very pleased with herself and very happy and contented, really. And Teach Me Tarot says that this is a card that says, to say that you've made it success is an understatement, but both you and I know that it was hard earned. So yeah, it's hard earned, well deserved respite. By the way you've done this is almost single-handedly so, with very little input from others. This card can suggest that you've made many sacrifices or denied yourself freedom and spontaneity in order to achieve your goal or dream. You're not afraid of hard work, even though you may miss out on the fun in your life. This is something that Virgo generally has to be careful of. We talked about it a bit last week about running yourself ragged, even if you don't need to. So this week, if you've been working really hard during this 10 days, just learn to sit back and rest on your laurels if you've been doing a lot of work during this time. So Virgo Decan 2, it's a lot. I think it has a bit more of an edge than Virgo Decan 1, because Virgo Decan 1 is very much the Virgo Decan, but this one is ruled by Venus and Saturn, so it's the Capricorn triplicity. And so, yeah, it puts the kind of work ethic very strongly into this Decan as well. Now, I said the Persephone myth turns up, but just like Virgo Decan 1, but even richer and even darker. The Venus ruled Decan is more like Babylonian Ishtar, the goddess of love and war. She's a lot more edgy than her Roman counterparts, or even the Greek Aphrodite, which Aphrodite seems to be a lot more I was going to say useless, but she's just kind of, she's just kind of vain and pretty and lovely, but she wouldn't go out to war. I mean, that's Mars's job rather. So she's a bit more kind of the lazy kind of Venus, but Ishtar, love and war, which kind of attracts very plutonic, prickly, temperamental mates as well. So now the thing we have to be careful with this energy, or this Decan 2 energy, is attracting codependent, hypercritical and abusive partners, because you're too lazy or insecure to leave them. And then that can breed resentment and a lot of blame and victimization on both sides, because it's got the more sort of Saturn Venus, and the stars here are also quite Saturn Venus. It does give that bleeding heart, masochistic side. So let's look at some of the aspects, because there are quite a few, and the main ones are going to be, let's see. Yes, here we go. Sun conjunct Mars, that's on September the 4th. And this is the hero. This is the heroic one. I mean, last week I did sort of mention this because I wanted to talk about Salvini. But actually the conjunction is this week, falls into this one. Let's have a look at just how it goes. So, yeah, you can see there's a real build-up of this T-square energy. I don't know, there may be this kind of victim narrative going on, because it is all opposite. Well, the Sun and Mars are opposite Neptune as well. There can be confrontation, but we've also got some kind of karmic things coming to the surface as well, with Saturn and the South Node still close together. The King's Fool, Sun conjunct Mercury. Now this is, I don't know who is the King's Fool, because sometimes I think Trump is both the king and the fool, because it was often the case that the fool would be the kind of wise one and would advise the king, and the fool was a kind of magician archetype, really, because he could sort of see what was coming as well. So yeah, it's going to be a busy week, and I think what's happening is things are coming to this sort of boiling point. So yeah, going back to Virgo Decan 2 again, and we were looking at the tarot card, the Nine of Pentacles, with it being the positive Pluto, supposedly wealth. So this is as a result of many lives of hard graft. Now, all the slave labour that has gone into China that's been generating all this wealth, I mean, what happens there? I mean, hopefully it will work out for the best. I really do think this will work out for the best, even though it's going to be short-term hardship, you know, for a while. But it's, yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it's happening now while the sun is in this decan and it's highlighting that, hopefully it should be seen in a positive light. It should be. But remember, we do have some people who just love to be victims with this, because Sun in Virgo 2, its meaning, I forgot to actually let you know what that is. Bernadette Brady says it's to receive or cause suffering, struggling with the mentality of the victim, either in oneself or others. Now, some of the people that have Sun in Virgo, just interestingly, are Bernie Sanders, the September 11 attacks, of course, because we're coming up to September the 11th as well in this decan. Ivan the Terrible, Charlie Sheen, who's had a very colourful life, hasn't he? And I think he's not doing so well anymore. He used to be, you know, Hollywood's darling, and now he's just a washed-up addict, which is real. I mean, it's sad, really, but that's what they do. They chew you up and spit you out. Los Angeles has the sun in this decan, and same with Liz Green, one of my favourite astrologers. And guess what? The chart for Darkstar Astrology actually has this as well. So this decan I called Virtuous in Shame and Great Stalkers, because it really does, you know, when it sets its mind on something, they will stalk and stalk, especially if it's something that is hard to get. And one of the characteristics of this decan of Virgo is that they feel like they have to go through hell and back, severe trauma and a mental breakdown before they deserve to win anything. But when they finally do get the prize in their hand, they will stick with it forever, usually because it takes them forever and a few broken bones as well to get their dream. So they won't do that again in a hurry. So that is really what Decan 2 is all about. It really is a hard graft to get to the end of it, but they will stick with it, and we will stick with whatever we start to pursue at the beginning of this decan. From September the 3rd onwards until the 12th, we will, I mean, when we do finally get it, we will stick with it. So in a way, also just be careful what you wish for as well, because sometimes you might sort of double. It might be a case of like you do a huge amount of work for something and invest a lot of money into it as well, and then realize that it's all fake. And then what do? Do you double down and say, oh no, I just have to see it through? Just make sure you don't do that, because sometimes you just have to let something go, even if it means that you have already invested a lot of time and money into it, because maybe, just maybe, if you do stick with it, it may be even worse. And so you have to just be very careful with what you sort of start stalking as well. Anything. I mean, it could be a person, it could be an idea, it could be a project, it could be a job that you've always wanted, or you thought you always wanted. But with Virgo, there is discrimination as well. You have to to be discerning, be very discerning at this time, because there are lots of choices. Let me just have a quick whiz through that aspects as well. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of the period, and we can see that, well, the first thing really, like I said before, is, the biggest thing is the Venus square Jupiter, which can go overboard with generosity. So just be careful, especially with the sun being on Zosma. That's very self-sacrificing as well. So just be careful you don't give too much right at the beginning, like on a date or something like that. just holds back a bit. Then from the 3rd, we start with this T square and we get the Sun, Mercury. Oh, Sun, Mercury and Mars. I did not remember seeing that. Okay, this is a huge conjunction. And it's all on Zosma. Look at that, all on Zosma. So that really does ramp up the victimhood situation. And Venus is quite close. I mean, it's wide, but because it's also opposite Neptune, that brings in more of the self-sacrifice, more of the victim situation. So I don't know whether in the news there will be anything to do with that, but but just I think this will be a very interesting day. That's September the 3rd. Oh, that's it. Yeah, the 4th is the Venus opposite Neptune opposition. And thing with Venus opposite Neptune is that's a real wanting a soulmate. It can be unrequited love. So if you're being affected by this, if this is touching any of your angles or luminaries, especially with Neptune in there, Jupiter in there as well. I mean, this could be a very sort of spiritual love, but then with Mars and the Sun, you might want to do something like quite drastic and brave, and like it's very much like, oh, I've fallen in love with someone across the other side of the world, and I want to be with them, and I'm going to just go there. I mean, it's that kind of thing. And look, there's also Saturn on the South Node as well. So lots of karmic relationship stuff going on too. So there may be a huge pull towards someone that you've known in a past life. You might think, well, that's it, we're destined to be. But again, just keep grounded, keep your feet on the ground. It is in Virgo. So if this was an air sign, maybe you'd be more likely to kind of do something really nuts. But as I've said before, sometimes Virgo stelliums can really flip over to their opposite, which is Pisces, dreamers, and then that being fueled with Jupiter. Wow, I mean, that really could be this sort of big love story here coming up. But at the same time, just be careful about, what are they called? The dark cupids that I call them, where you could be supernaturally possessed by someone who manipulates you to do whatever you want them to do, and you end up being their sex slave. So don't do that. Try not to do that. Be quite hard to resist, though, I must say. I mean, this is quite dreamy, really. Yeah, see, Mercury then is trine Saturn and the South Node. I mean, on the good side of that could be sort of karmic debts being repaid in terms of business. If you've got any work, if anything in your chart connects with these 14 Virgo and in the Earth, say you've got something at 14 Taurus, that's a nice grand trine there, and that could be some nice reward for you. So in business, that could be quite nice. So it's not all about being swept away by a dark cupid, irresistible bad boy or bad girl from somewhere across the world. Mercury, Jupiter, again, be careful with extravagance and spending money on people that you hardly know. This has happened. I've heard of people being on Tinder or some dating app and having younger men thinking they've got money and asking them to send them money. You know, that's happened. So be careful of that. I think it's called catfishing, something like that. Anyway, this T square goes all the way up to September 11th. And then you get, that's pretty intense. Here we go. Ooh, it's the first day of the next one. So maybe I'll talk about that in the next week's one, because we should cut it here at September the 12th. But look what's brewing. There is Mars square Jupiter square Neptune. Here we are looking at September the 13th, where it's the day before the full moon, and you'll see that actually the full moon triggers this T-square that is coming up. So it's a big one because Mars is opposite Neptune, and Neptune is square Jupiter as well. I talked about this at length in the full moon post, so really when that comes up after this one, we can look at that in more detail on that, because I think I don't want to repeat myself, but I do think there's a lot of deception going along, obviously, and there's also at the same time the Saturn on the south node. So there's a lot of karmic stuff coming up, a lot of chickens coming home to roost, as they say, for sure. And lies coming up in the news, which is kind of what always happens in the news anyway. But of course, everybody on alternative media they'll have a lot to sift through. I think there'll be a lot for anybody who's a truth seeker they'll have a lot of work in September the 13th, because more and more stuff is coming up for examination. And also, yes, on that day too, you can see that Venus and Mercury are also conjunct at 28 of Virgo, and that's pretty much, it's actually on Markeb, where the moon's going to be as well. And Markeb that's in Pegasus, which is the flying horse. So I think they will be this is another thing that I talk about in the full moon as well, is accidents. This is the day that is a little bit precarious when it comes to accidents, because when you've got Venus and Mercury on this star, it's a nice combination, don't get me wrong, but it's just with the T-square going on as well, and the Saturn South Node. I don't know. I wonder if there's some kind of something that is actually not an accident that is made to look like an accident. So we'll see. And since the Sun has now gone into Virgo Decan 3, just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea about what this Decan is about. So yes, we're still in Virgo. This part of Decan, in Virgo, is ruled by Mercury and Venus, and it's the Taurus triplicity. So it's got it's more of a hands-on healing energy, really, and it's associated with the 10 of Pentacles. So that's like really rewarding, earthly success, commercially successful, and it is reflected in the picture where it shows abundance, thriving, high achievement and solid foundations. It could mean that, anyone that has this Decan prominent, it suggests that it could be about marrying into money due to having helped that family in a past life. So it's kind of repaying debts again. Teach Me Tarot says, here we are looking at success, prosperity and abundance on many levels. The card suggests you have done or will do very well for yourself, not by chance, but by working very hard to achieve it. Wealth and strong financial security are indicated. So it is a card of reward. So this is a Decan of reward. So I think it's a lot of, as I said, chickens coming home to roost, and hopefully it should be lucky for some people, So because this is a Taurus triplicity of Virgo, they tend to be the hardest workers. It really is about earning money, and they make really dutiful workers. So now, the problem with these people as well, or the big challenge for this Decan as well, is getting both sides of the brain working in balance. This should be a natural, but somehow in our left brain dominated world, they can allow their sharp logical side to take over, and then not even for their own benefit. So since they're such prime workers, they're dutiful, self-sacrificial, have fantastic brains, which is just what the power elites prey on. And you can bet that successful IT companies are stuffed full of Virgo Decan 3 drones working their magic while their Pluto bosses take all the credit and lap up the profit. So I'm not saying that all Virgo Decan 3s are drones, but they can go into mechanical robot mode if they want to, because they're so efficient. I mean, they're almost like, you know, a really highly functioning robot, you know, with no mistakes. So that's the sort of energy that's around in this Decan. It's a lot of, I mean, it's harvest time as well. So it's hard graft. It's getting the last of the harvest in, because then it's Virgo, it's Libra season, where it's all about burning and weeding things out and pruning things back and starting to prepare the soil for the next kind of, well, for spring next year and for the winter. And it's the last big push, really, to get everything out before the clocks go forward and there's less hours in the day or hours of daylight to work in. So that's why there's that kind of energy with this Decan. So this kind of energy will take us all the way to the 23rd, and that's when the sun goes into Decan 1. So on the 14th of September, you get Venus moving into Libra. There's a shift over now, and then Mercury moving into Libra, and that's the same day of the exact Mars opposite Neptune, which will be on the full moon as well, by the way, full moon on the 14th, and that will take place at 17 degrees Virgo Pisces, with Mars being in Virgo. The exact time that the South Node and Saturn meet is on the 15th of September, so that's a very, very karmic payback day, and that takes place at 13 of Cancer. The North Node is at 13 Cancer, the South at Capricorn. So if you've got anything on those degrees, and also cardinal, it can be also for Aries and Libra as well, that you're particularly affected by the karmic payback time and the chickens coming home to roost. On the 17th of September, the sun is on fixed star Alx, and I wrote a little article on that. It's just a very short one, just that it's an ancestral type of star where you, if you have this strong in your own chart, then you're likely to be someone who inherits a family traits or talent that you can sort of make your mark with. And it is the Holy Grail. It's known as the Holy Grail. And so healing by water is associated with this star as well. Then on September the 18th, Saturn goes direct, yay! So all you Aquarians, all you Capricorns should feel like you've got your mojo back. Particularly Aquarius, I think, during August. I was discussing this with a friend of mine who's also Aquarius, Sun Aquarius, and she said she always feels a bit low energetically and gets ill quite easily in August, because maybe because the sun's in our opposite sign, there's a bit of the immune system is not as strong as it could be. But that coupled with Saturn being retrograde as well, it's just, I think it really brings the energy down as well. So Capricorns and Aquariuses, you should be back on track, starting to move forward. Definitely feeling like you are, you've got more energy as well, and you're sorted. It's not just Aquarius and Capricorn. If you're one of these people that have Saturn really strong in your chart, like it's rising, or even, and also, Capricorn rising and Aquarius rising too. It doesn't have to be just the sun. And if it's your moon too. So the ruler of your moon. So all back, all hands on deck again, and let's get busy. On the 19th of September, there's a really fantastic Mars trine Pluto. Love those two together, especially in the Earth signs, because that really is a ploughing kind of energy. You can really get a lot of work done, and a lot of, I mean, if you're in a fighting mood, if you have to really really flatten an enemy. So I think this is a good one for you. If any of these are aspected in your chart, if you have something at 20, anything at 20 Earth, you're going to be really, really firing on all cylinders, and but in a really in a good way, because if that was a square, there could be a really kind of nasty, ruthless side to it. But I think with the trine, it softens the both up and smooths out the rough edges and the rawness, and you get kind of a very skilled, strategic, chess-playing kind of winning there. So very useful. Actually, if you're Capricorn, I think you'll really enjoy it, because it's just right up your street. Very good for research, very good for anything that involves real precision. Also surgery as well. Maybe it is a good day for getting surgery if you need to cut something out, you know. So it is a bit of a exorcist aspect as well, but in a not too severe way. Yeah, it can be dragon slaying as well, I think, because remember, we've still got Saturn on the South Node. So again, it's detoxing and really weeding out those demons. And it's the time of the year anyway, because it's preparing the grounds and burning those leaves that are starting to, I mean, I don't think they're not quite falling off the trees yet, but in October they will start. But weeding the garden and cutting things back is the sort of thing that we're up to at this time. On the 20th, there's a quite nice little psychic connection going on for Mercury sextile Ceres. If you want to be doing some healing, a massage, an astrology reading, something like that. Definitely nice and medicinal, that one. Herbal healing, because Mercury is actually on Diadem, Porama actually is the one that's quite psychic. So it's a good one for trusting your intuition and knowing what herbs to pick, or mixing up a nice stew. A nice healing stew would be good. And that's at 10 degrees of Libra to 10 degrees Sag. So, at the moment, Ceres is on her way to join with Jupiter, and I just think that's such a good harvesting energy. They're both about reaping, but it's more sort of abundance. It's really like, oh wow, look at how my seeds have blossomed. My apple tree is full of big fat apples ready to take down and make into some nice cider or something like that. So September the 21 is the day of the Jupiter square Neptune. So this is the one that I called Victim Saviour. And this is when I was getting into trouble when I mentioned this, because, this was when I got yelled at for people reading it as me taking a pop at people who are disadvantaged and accusing them of playing up to their victimhood. But, it has become a bit of a thing, hasn't it? And, I don't want to go into it anymore here, but you can read the post. I'll leave it in the description below. But it is very martyrish. It's a very martyr energy. That's why I used the picture of Jesus, the uber martyr with his crown of thorns. This is the thing. If you've been brought up a Christian, we're all supposed to turn the other cheek. And very good programming, that. Very useful for people to walk all over you with. But anyway, that's going on the 21st, and it's quite a tetchy day if you look at the chart, because there's the T square with where is Neptune gone? Yeah, it's not opposite Mars anymore, but there's quite a few T squares going on, because you've got the nodes and they are squaring Mercury, so that could be some quite bad news with the Mercury there. I mean, it's on, because also Mercury is getting close to Algorab, and it's on the crow, so the crafty crow tells lies, so that's a bit of a lying T-square there. And this could be someone really playing up to their victimhood supremely here. And now actually on that day, the Mars will be square the moon as well. Mars will still be in that trine with Pluto as well. So I think there'll be a bit of a battle there with who's lying, who's telling the truth. And and who's kind of going to play up the whole, well, playing on people's belief systems and using that to get them to feel sorry for them, which is, I just think it's really awful, because it's definitely playing on people's good nature. So anyone that says no to whatever help they're trying to get out of you is going to just look like a villain there, really. But no, you have to keep strong, because it's all about setting boundaries with that Saturn on the South Node. If people are going to lie about things, they will get it back. There's no cheating. There's no cheating in the world, really. I mean, I know there is loads of cheating in the world, but karmically, you can't cheat fate. So I think the best thing is to let higher powers sort it out, and don't take the law into your own hands, because you'll just get into trouble. So yeah, that Mercury square the nodes goes into the 22nd as well. And it's 13 Libra, Cancer, Capricorn is the hot spot for that. Then on the 23rd of September, Sun into Libra, Decan 1, hooray. So yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, God bless them, I love the Virgos, but Virgo season is hard work. It's really weeding out things. It's doing the hard graft. And it's also to do, I mean, if you're not working in the fields, which is typical kind of Virgo energy, because it's an earth sign, and who works in the fields these days, it's more likely to be in an office, which is also kind of Virgo territory as well. But when you get into Libra, when you look at the chart, you're going into the 7th house, and it's sunset time. It's more into relationships. And at this time of year as well, it is like starting to kind of cozy up on the sofa. So what's Libra Decan 1 all about? Well, it's adept at bringing peace and harmony into the most fraught situation. Like all the Decans, there will be a negative side. So all the sugary sweetness can be a bit too much, can be a bit diabetic. But the ironic thing about Libra Decan 1 is that sometimes their push for peace can attract very aggressive and mean mates. Either that or violence just seems to blow up around them for no reason at all. So yeah, this Decan, Libra Decan 1, is, well, I called it in crowds and triangular relationships, because it can go into sort of negative territory with Venus as well, with her sort of seductive side, because it's ruled by the moon as well. So it's sort of like double female. It's the moon and Venus, and it's the most Libra of all the Libra decans as well. So it is very sweet. It's probably it is the sweetest one, and that's why it can attract the very opposite, with very aggressive people around them. So the trouble with this decan as well, it has a real horror of arguing, really doesn't like to offend. It's a bit of a snowflake, to be honest. So they tell a lot of little white lies. And what can sometimes happen is that they all build up to turn into one big fat lie, which will then reveal itself at just the wrong moment. And when that happens, our perfect Venus turns into her nemesis, which is Eris. So the ugly goddess of discord in our perfectly balanced and aesthetically lovely Libra. Yep, it's the shadow. It's Libra's shadow. So it kind of fits quite well with all this work that we're doing at the moment with Saturn on the South Node as well. So there's a lot of shadow stuff going on at the moment. There's a lot of ultra sweet and then ultra bitter as well. Very well, we know there's been polarization going on forever, ever since Trump got in. But it's this particular week or 10 days, it will really, I think, sort of come to a head. Some of it, not all of it. It's always coming to a head, but this will be one of those boils, one of those heads that are particularly nasty, I think. And so the tarot card associated with this decan is the Two of Swords. And I did get a feeling that with this decan that it's got a very strong kind of Maat energy. You know, the Egyptian goddess Maat, M-A-A-T. So it's that very much the Venus scales, you know. The scales of justice, very strong. So the tarot card Meaning, according to Teach Me Tarot, says it often indicates arguments between people who are being rigid and unyielding. Both sides are locked into the battle. There is little room for forgiveness and no sign of a thaw. The argument could go on for years and take generations to come unless someone is brave enough to sort it out. People need to lay down their weapons and open their hearts to forgiveness. Now, I think karmically it shows the polarity of Aries to Libra, where Libra is the other, and the balancing of the scales indicates finding a compromise to extremism in the past. So, well, I mean, it sounds a little bit like stalemate, and it sounds a little bit like Brexit as well. Whew. I mean, we have to wait till the 31st of October for that, so we're going into Scorpio territory by then, but it's building up anyway in the UK. But I will look at that in another report, because it's this one I want to just focus on these aspects because there's so much to get through as well. So back to the transits then. The 24th is quite a kind of easy-ish day. You've got Venus sextile Ceres, really lush, juicy, good for dinner party, and also Mercury sextile Jupiter, nice and chatty. So yeah, that's a kind of easy day. I mean, in the background, you've also got Venus building up to activate the T-square, which is the very next day. And but I think Venus triggering the T-square, that could be a good moment to have a talk about where the relationship is going. If you're in some kind of if you don't know where you stand in a relationship, because Saturn and Venus are very good for commitment and forcing that point. But also we've still got the background of the Jupiter Neptune as well. So, I mean, it's not a T-square anymore, but it's still there. And so there is a positive side to this. And how I see it is really because the square can be turned into a diamond as we try to break free of our need to play the martyr in relationships. And eventually it can turn you into a great healer, but only after some harsh lessons have been learned as well. So it can be about breaking free of a relationship with a covert narcissist as well, because then you're cutting off their hooks, basically. So you're cutting off their supply. So you should feel a lot more energy, because now you've plugged out the leak, basically, the Neptune leak, and you can keep all the water for yourself. So, and yes, on the 26th, you've got Mercury square Pluto as well. So that's another rescue from the underworld. I think it was Mercury that went into... Well, actually, it was a version of Mercury in the Inanna version, the Babylonian version of Persephone in the underworld. So it's a mercurial type of creature. I think he got in under her fingernails, was it? Tiny little creatures. But anyway, so it looks like a sort of rescue here somehow. A bit of a cunning way of doing it, because Mercury is always very clever at disguises. Oh yes, and Venus is on Algorab the Crow with that T-square as well, which is the day before. So yeah, we've got a lot of cunning stuff. You've got to have your wits about you during this Decan. But it's good. It's good for understanding how to play the game, because it is a game. We have to play the game and learn how to be cunning instead of being too blatantly honest. I mean, I'm not saying to lie, but when the playing field is not even and people are cheating, you have to find ways of being honourable without stooping to their level, but at the same time, don't shoot yourself in the foot with telling people stuff you don't need to tell them. Then on the 28th, there's the new moon. That's at 5 Libra, and there's a really nice aspect that day. It's Venus sextile Jupiter, the two benefics together, really romantic and a lovely way to end this report, I think. So, there's a mixed bag, some really nice, sweet connections, some harmony, some peacemaking as well. I think I called that moon the peacemaker. Yeah, and the one before that is fight or flight because of Pegasus. So those reports will be coming up. And yeah, that brings me to the end. Hope you like this format. I'm going to stick with this format now. But do come to the website as always, because my new moons, I'm really pleased with them now. I think I've found what works, and I really like my little Instagram ensemble of square format pictures that go with the full moon and the new moon with the crystal and everything. So come to the website to see those. Actually, the links will be on the YouTube reports for them, but also the almanac for this September that you see on the screen probably now is, if you just need to refer to it, it's on the website as well. And I found a way of making it look nice and neat and tidy without my terrible scrawl on it, because I couldn't even read it myself, let alone anybody else. So yeah, I think it's sorted itself out. It's all been Virgonized. Is that a word? It's all been Virgonized in a Virgo way. All right then, thanks for listening. All the best. See you next time. Bye-bye.